So, Nikita, thanks very much for joining us today. It's a pleasure meeting you. Can you please tell me a little bit more about your business?
For sure. I always say that I'm in the business of making life a little bit more fun. We specialize in hosting anything from a birthday to a graduation to a bar mitzvah to a wedding. And the whole sort of idea is finding new and creative ways to enjoy life. I think so many of us are so absorbed in the work, 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 and earn for survival mode that a lot of us have a hard time taking a day off and we don't see the ROI on it, right? Like if you go out to a nice dinner, it's like, yeah, that was great, but it feels almost like a fleeting moment. And so what we kind of try and specialize in is how do we take it up a notch and make it something that you're feeling like you're getting the ROI on, especially when you have the mentality that time is better spent working.
Fine.
So yeah, so like we did a C-suite group where we had them learn how to breathe fire, or we did a bride who we had land, like we hot air ballooned her onto our deck, or for a birthday we'll fly in a really famous DJ and take you out on the yacht, like on a yacht, to just make it something that you actually look forward to, and it doesn't just feel like I'm doing this because I'm obligated to do it.
Sure. Okay. I think on the taking time away from work, I actually find that this is a conversation I have with clients quite a lot. But you talk about going on yachts and getting it flying in DJs and things like that. Am I right in thinking that this is very high end experiences that you're cultivating for people? That this is a high ticket product?
As of now, we definitely are. So I bought out my investors at our property in Sausalito, which I mean, it's not really a secret. We pay $50,000 a month in rent, right? And so in order to continue to make the kind of margin that we want to be able to grow at the rate we want to, we do have to sell it as a higher ticket item in Sausalito. But my goal at the end of the day is to be synonymous with the word event. So I want anyone that's thinking about hosting an event, no matter what your budget is, to think Iria is the place to go.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. And how did this all start, right? Because you were in the consumer goods business at one point, right?
Yeah, so I actually started off with the restaurant. So I got funding for a restaurant, got that open. And then I just don't enjoy food and beverage. Like I don't drink. I eat steak and
Yeah.
eggs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I just had such a hard time like getting excited about, oh
Mm.
wow, this food is emulsified and this is this and that. Just could not do it. Could not get myself to like enjoy it. And so I actually bought laundromats from my first draw from the restaurant, rolled that into a CPG company, scaled the CPG company national, and had a 8-figure exit on that then allowed me to buy out my investors. And I always knew that I wanted to buy them out because I didn't enjoy the restaurant concept. But a couple
Mm.
months before I bought them out, we actually did a couple of events. I did one for Anthropic. Today, it's not a very entertaining event to like talk about compared to the stuff we do. But at the time, I was like, wow, you get this huge budget. Everyone leaves
Mm.
happy. You don't have to talk about food and drink all the time. And like you get to do some entertainment and just you get to have fun with it and get creative. And then I did a $300,000 wedding that just like blew my socks off. And I was like, this is what I want to do. So we did two of those. And then when I exited my breadstick company, I was like, this is what I want to do full time, bought them out, and then took over that lease in that property.
So if you weren't interested in food and beverage, and I assume you knew that as you were going into the restaurant world, what made you think, oh, I know what is going to make a huge success? It's going to be in the restaurant space. Why was that the first step?
So it wasn't technically the first step. So I built two
Okay.
nonprofit clinics when I was
Mm.
13 in India. And
Mm.
my goal with that was to build a decent sense of economic independence for a lot of the women that were stuck in abusive relationships. I wanted to be able to help them get the cash flow that they needed to be able to survive on their own so they didn't have to stay in situations that weren't good for them.
Mm.
One of the ways that I did that was that I worked with a fertilizer company, and that fertilizer company had then expanded into restaurants. And I was at a conference where they were talking about expanding it into the US, especially like specifically California. And I lived in California at the time going to high school. And so I said I would do it. And that's where the idea came from. So I had no interest in restaurants to begin with. I just loved
Mm.
the idea of doing something different. I was like, I love learning new things. I did not care for luxury things. Like I personally I'm a very simple person still, right? Like I'm
Mm.
not a big oh my gosh, I want to stay at this 5-star hotel. I would much rather stay at a hotel that knows my routine, that can arrange the things that I like. And I'm a creature of habit. And so luxury for me is the freedom to focus your decisions on only the stuff that you want to focus on.
So, on the business side of things, it sounds like you've almost had like a 40-year career condensed into like what time frame are we talking about here? That you've gone from doing non-profit clinics to doing restaurants to, I believe you said at one point, right, buying laundromats and rolling them into a national CPG company, and then selling the food sticks, and then doing events. Like, what is the time frame that we're looking at?
11 years.
Okay. Okay, fine. So yeah, you really have had a 40-year career in just over a decade. Okay, fine. For now then, what is with Iria, what is your plan? Right? I don't need necessarily a 5-year goal. I'm not necessarily looking for that. But like when you wake up in the morning, what is getting you super excited to continue with this venture in a way that you haven't necessarily before?
It's actually so funny you say this. I always make a joke that like I twiddle my toes at night night before I go to bed, thinking about my day tomorrow. And I think it's just the ability to experience something new. Like no single day of mine looks the same. Like I had a client 2-3 days ago and I got to learn how to program a drone show, which is so cool. Right. And it's just like, if I'm only going to live once, these are things I definitely want to experience.
Yeah, fine. And so when someone comes to you and says, okay, I want to throw this amazing CEO party, how exactly do you go about thinking about or the ideation phase for planning the events that you've got?
We're really fortunate now, touch wood, that we've been doing this long enough that in our area, we're known for being like badass. Like we're known for doing things that you won't think of. And so it's gotten to the point where a lot of clients will just come to me and say, hey, this is my budget. This is the date that I want. Here's my deposit. And like, now go do what Nikita does. Like go be childlike creative, come up with something cool and tell us what it is. But the ideation is very much me sitting here being like, what do I want to do? Like, what does this client feel like they would really like? And then we do it.
Okay, cool. And so what does the actual business itself look like at this point in time then? How many people do you have that work with you? How many people are involved in the kind of the ideation phase? And how many clients do you typically work with each month?
So these are going to be kind of funky numbers because it really just depends on demand. So, for example, last month we did 54 events in Sausalito, just in that one location where we did 3 events a couple of the Saturdays, 2 events almost every Friday. In terms of employment, we have a very different way of forming it. So I have directors of operations at each location. And then
Mhm.
that is my only one salaried employee at the actual physical space. Everyone else is brought in based on client demand. In terms of people, I have a CFO, I have a CMO that we just onboarded. I have a client relations manager who also kind of does COO work for me right now, just because that's where a lot of that void is
Mhm.
in what we need. And I'm not able to yet hand off a lot of the client management to her. Like she can sit in on meetings, but clients will still want to have that face to face with me. And so she's more acting as COO, kind of following up post me being the face touch point. And then I have a accounting team of about 8. And then, yeah, just my 3 managers. Oh, and then I have like 4 full-time assistants. So I would say we have like 15 people on full-time
Okay.
payroll.
Okay. Fine. That kind of leads exactly into like where you had intimated in the email is your kind of limiting point, right? Your time. So it sounds like you're still very central to a lot of things. Is that how you would see things, or how would you articulate where you are with that problem at the moment?
I think the way that I would articulate it isn't necessarily that I feel like I'm at the center. It's that perception is that I have to continue to stay at the center. And the best way to describe it is, I don't know if you saw on Shark Tank, actually one of the vendors we work with, Yes Moments, they went on Shark Tank and they were trying to get funding to grow nationally. And the biggest thing that the shark said was, this is such a personalized service that you're providing. How are you going to be able to scale it? And there was just so much doubt in people's mind that something is private and personal as hospitality can be scaled at that large level. And so my biggest worry with opening our next location is at some point, I personally am not going to be able to take every call. And how do I get people's minds prepared for us to still be taken as right now? The reason people book with us is because I take every call. And they're like, Nikita's brain is really good at this. And I know she's going to be able to make it happen. Right. And how do I get to a point that I can continue to scale without that being in people's mind my limiting factor?
Yeah. Okay, fine. So before I get there then, Nikita, the question I want to understand is where do you want to take this, right? So you got 3 locations at the moment, is that true?
Yes.
So you want to scale to a 4th, okay? And the question then becomes, how do I continue to scale this without breaking, right? I guess you're the breaking point in this instance. I'm sure there's other things as well, potentially, but that's you. You can't take all of these calls. Is that fair?
Yes, I would say
Okay,
so.
cool. So beyond the 4th location, like where do you want to take this? If we were to fast forward 3 years, right? It's far enough that you don't have to think about it immediately, but short enough that you're planning for it. What does that look like for you? Like, what do you want this organization to become?
So our cash flow and our demand currently would allow us to expand to a new location every 3 months. We
Okay.
did 6 million in Sausalito our first year of being an event company, and we ran 73% margins. So we were a very cash flow heavy business, right? And we fill demand very quickly because we have a lot of clients that are on annual budgets so we can continue to spread out. My goal would be to be able to not have me be the constraint and to have demand be the new constraint. I would love to, in an ideal world, open a location every 3 months. I would love to have one of every type of iconic location. So I want to have a vineyard. I want to have a castle. I want to have one of everything so that the clients that do come on with us, they can just kind of cycle through all of our venues and have us be the main producer and not have to go anywhere else. I would love to be a one-stop shop for everybody that wants to do an event. And we just become the company for events. We become the Kleenex of the event world. That's my goal.
Okay, fair enough.
Small
Okay.
goals.
No, I like the Kleenex analogy. So I completely get it. Okay, so I get it from the business perspective, but as you kind of alluded to yourself, right? There's life to this as well. You want to have fun. You want to experience new things. So what does that mean for you as the CEO? What do you want to continue to keep experiencing? Like what would continue to light you up as you expand into these things? Like what makes it personal for you?
To be able to grow, to be able to do something new tomorrow and to not be stuck in a position of doing the same thing again and again. I would love to figure out the system, right? So today, if I take 2 client calls and I figure out the system as to how we're taking these client calls, I would love to be able to then train somebody who thinks exactly the same way as I do so we can really keep that brand culture to be the feeling of Nikita's brain, and then to have them take it over, and for me to then go and do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Like, I just want to build. That's all. Like, I love building. I love doing the next thing.
You're going to have a lot of those if you're going to buy castles and vineyards and all of these different sorts of things. So that sounds fun.
Exactly. I want to solve a new problem every day. I want to be firefighting.
Okay, so you like the firefighting of things.
I love the firefighting, and that's where I do the best. And so, like, my team always has a joke. Anytime I say something, they're like, that's why you're the boss, because that's all they come to me for, right? Like, my goal is to get to the point that my only job is to take barriers out of my team's way and be the person that they come to help solve things that they can't do themselves.
Okay. And can you give me an example of one that you've solved in the last week?
Okay, so La Boulangerie, we're partnering with them. They're a coffee shop, and they were thinking of getting a bunch of furniture in the space. I was like, that makes great sense. I called up a bunch of companies and I was like, who wants to give us the furniture complimentary and we'll put your plaque there because we're the new age influencers, right? We have 300 people coming in through our space. That's as many views as you're getting through an influencer, and there's so much oversaturation on the internet. We're giving you live bodies of captive audience to then sell your product to that are at the same price point. And we got all of our furniture donated. And they were like, this is why you're the boss. Because you can see past the fact that it would have been a $50,000 capex for us, and we need to change it frequently depending on guest events. And now we have a partnership with them where we're just their visibility tool, and it's just a creative way to do it. So I come into play where it's just you need to see business in 4D and be able to get creative with how you do things.
So if we were to look at your current day then, right? What is the delta between where your current day is and where you want it to be? Or is it simply that you want like, okay, as I continue to grow, my day can't stay like this and I need to kind of ring fence it and I need to be able to pass on more of my brain onto someone else so they can take the other pieces off? Which of those two is more true for you?
I don't think it's either yet. I think that the way that my day is working right now, I am getting to do the next and the next thing. And every day is starting to look different and I am able to delegate. However, what I'm seeing start to have be the conversation is one of our clients that's an annual client was like, Nikita, you can't hand me over. I need to be a part of your day. Or there's chefs that we work with that are vendors that I've handed over to my purchasing team that will still call me 4 times and get offended if I don't take their call. And there's this like diffusion of responsibility as to where the buck actually stops. And so that's kind of where I'm starting to see it. And I'm starting to see conversation from my clients as to when there is conversation about, oh, we're looking at another property at X, Y, and Z location. They're like, oh, so you're not going to be able to be as involved. And, this is going to be bad. And you're making so much cash. Like, why do you care to expand? Right. And so I think that there's just so much doubt and there's so much concern from other people that I'm worried that it's going to start to hurt the reputation that we have as a brand. And I think it's going to start to bleed into our demand.
Okay. But is that true?
I don't personally believe so, right?
Yeah.
But I'm biased. I believe that I spent 6 months with my manager in Sausalito, and I promise you, if you were to email us or text us, you would not be able to tell which is the difference. He texts just like me. He uses just as many exclamation points on everything. And anything that he can't figure out, he will text me. And then I can get involved in just that little bit that he needs. So I don't think so. But he's not the 23-year-old that got funded and has the whole backstory, right? So people don't feel that pride being like, oh yeah, I know Andres, our director of operations.
Yeah. But like ultimately what in your perception, what do people pay you for? When people come to you, what are they paying for?
I think they're paying for, honestly, I think 6 months ago, it was that we were really good at what we do. I think today it's being able to be like, oh, I'm working with Nikita. I know Nikita. And that shift isn't something that I wanted to have happen, but now is starting to happen as I step more into the brand.
What do you mean by you step more into the brand? More that you're the front face of social media and things like that?
Exactly. So like I told you, we didn't do any press or media for the first 12, 13 months. And so our entire reputation there came from, wow, did you see what they did? They did such a good job. And so a lot of our discovery that has helped us grow as a brand has been from, oh, wow, Nikita, this is a crazy story. It's so interesting. It's so interesting how her brain works. We want to work with her. Right. And so I think that growth, which I think helped us a lot in terms of, I think Iria is becoming more of a household name in a lot of local homes. But I think that with Iria, Nikita Khandheria is becoming one. And people are like, we want Nikita Khandheria from Iria. We don't want to work with someone on her team.
Okay. I understand that, right? And it makes sense from the way that you've explained it. But I wonder what have you done to try and negate that then, right? What have you done to try and steer that away from being the situation that you're in at the moment?
Well, I'm not, like I told you, I'm a very boring person. I will test out experiences before we sell them to a client, but I'm never at events. I don't think that I have been in Sausalito for an event in 8 months. And I think people experiencing Andres, who's 100 times more hospitable than me, he's my director of ops there, I think I was hoping would be enough to kind of get them to move into that direction. And during the event, they're still pretty okay with it. But it's almost this sense of disappointment where after their baby shower, they'll be like, Nikita, I can't believe you didn't come. And it's like, why? You came for the experience. The experience was great. Nikita Khandheria doesn't have to be there for it to happen. And so I've definitely tried to convince people of that narrative. And it doesn't affect their actual day-to-day experience, but they won't book again unless they feel like they're connected to me. Because then, I don't know, they're just like, well, this is the same as anything else, even if we really liked what we got.
Okay. So the way that I see that is there's kind of multiple phases to that. The phase is like the sell-in, right, which is you, I would imagine, and you probably want to keep it you, unless I say that wrong, where you're in the ideation phase, you're coming up with what that baby shower looks like, or what that time on the boat looks like, whatever it might be, right? And then there's the actual taking care of the event, which is Andreas or one of your other directors of ops, right? Is that fair?
They are two distinct phases, but I think that even my involvement in the first one, we got 33 event inquiries yesterday. There is no way that I can call 33 people a day and continue to run a business and then also have 14 direct reports, because each of these clients, when they talk, they want to talk about their day, which I love to do that. And they want to talk about their first pet that they had when they were first born in like 1933. It's a long conversation. And there's
Yeah.
only so many hours in the day before it gets to the point that either I'm burnt out or I just start to deliver at a less quality because I'm just so stretched thin. And I don't want to compromise on the quality, but there's no other option because everyone's so used to me taking that first call. And I think that there's a world where my event planner can take it, they can get to know the client, and they can bring me back notes, and I can help ideate on that side where they're like, here are 20 clients, let's go over the personalities of all of them and their little tidbit stories. And I can have a 2-hour call with my event planner who did all of the intake, right? And then I don't have to be on 2-hour calls with each individual person.
Yes.
That's the hardest part. So on the event side, even though they're disappointed that I'm not physically there to produce the event, I think that they're okay with it and they're getting okay with it. The part that I've always done is that phase one, where I've always been the point person for the ideation. I've always been the brain behind it. And so that's the part I'm having a hard time handing over.
Yeah. But the beauty is that if they're one of the 33 inbound clients, they don't know that because they've never spoken to you before. So unless you're going onto a podcast and talking about it, or you're talking about it in terms of social media, they don't know that the first call is going to be with you. They don't have that expectation, do they? Or where does that get baked in?
I think it gets baked in because they find us through something, right? So either somebody's like, oh, I hosted an event and Nikita was fabulous, you have to work with her, which is word of mouth. And usually with the word of mouth, because I've been so involved, because I'm the founder, that is what they take home, right? They're like, oh my gosh, it was so fun to like ideate with Nikita, because up until now, that's what I was doing. Or they find us on Instagram, which is a compilation of like, these are the events that are happening, and this is Nikita, the person behind it. They read about us in an article, which is always, wow, Nikita, this young CEO, she must have something cool going on. Or they find us through my Instagram. Like, those are the 4 main sources, right?
Yes.
And so regardless of where they come in from, they hear the name Nikita. So even if they don't expect that first call to happen with me, the reason that they're coming is there's this growing company and it's run by this woman called Nikita. So they expect it. It's not that they know that it's going to be with me. Like if they go in and book a site visit through our website, it's done with the director of operations of each individual property. They won't book. They will then be like, oh, can we talk to Nikita?
So I think part of it's expectation, right, as you say, and it's understanding how can you unpick that expectation so that that's not an expectation. Maybe that's a desire, but it's not an expectation, perhaps. And then where are the punctuation points where you would love to be involved with, where the client gets value from you being there, but doesn't burn you out or drain all of your time? Are there natural punctuation points where you could see yourself dropping into?
Definitely, right? After the inbound call, I'm happy to help ideate on what we deliver for them and then help creatively solve problems that arise, right? So we recently did this graduation, planned it 2 years in advance. So she worked very personally with me. The day before the graduation, her estranged mother decided she was going to be coming in, and her father was also there. Anyway, long story short, she calls me, she's crying. She's like, I don't know what to do because this is going to be a shit show and this is all that anyone's going to think about. And so what I did was I went to Home Depot. I sent someone to Home Depot. We got like tracks. And we just got like unfinished glass and curtains, and we literally built a division and created 2 separate parties in the same space.
Okay.
Right? Because we did not want them to have to interact. And so we created like a separation between the 2 in the most organic looking way. So it didn't look like a situation to other people. right?
Mm,
And so
mm,
things like that, I'm happy to get involved in because that's like a
yeah.
problem that needs solution.
Well,
And
that's
it's fair for
firefighting.
you to say, exactly. And it's fair for you to
Yes.
say, Nikita,
Mm,
somebody else wouldn't think of that, right?
yeah.
Because that is true.
Mm,
But when it comes to you being like, you know, me and my husband met
mm,
skydiving and da 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 da, that
mm,
intake call, I don't need to take for my
mm,
planner to bring it back to me and for me to be like, oh, exactly what we're going to do. We're going to get a iFly tube and you guys are going to be mic'd up and you're going to say your vows while you fly, right?
mm.
I can do that without having to be on the call with you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly right. So this is where I think it's really important because you can chunk some of this stuff. It's very easy to say my my clients want me for everything, but there's certain parts that make the customer go, wow, that was amazing that Nikita was involved with that. I'm so incredibly grateful that she was there, that she problem solved this with me, and that she kind of swept in and saved the day, for lack of a better way of saying it, right? And similar to you, I used to come from the CPG world, right? And the way that I used to articulate it to my teams and we used to articulate it was that I want 99% of the time there to be no issues for the customer, right? I want them to get the product on time, it to arrive perfectly, that it to look great, all of these sorts of things. But that 1% where something goes wrong, whether it's our fault or not, that is the opportunity to have a customer for life. Because there comes an expectation that okay, they're going to get everything right. So it's conversely when things go wrong and you solve it in such a great way and you kind of make it seem as if it's maybe better than it would have been before. That's when someone goes, okay, this is why I need to work with Nikita ongoing. Those are the things that you need to be, I think, could be super involved with going forward, right? And so for maybe where it's been baked in with your existing client base, there's there's less opportunity to say, actually, I'm not doing this. Andreas is doing this. Although there's still an education piece that can go there. But realistically, I think if we focus the conversation today on the net new customers that you're getting, how can you continue to deliver a Nikita-esque experience without you being in everything? Like, would that make sense to be the area of focus for us, do you think?
I think it definitely would. I think the only other element that we're not accounting 100% is the element of age, gender, and experience in the space.
Mm,
Because I think what happens when I try and draw that boundary and I say that, you know, Andres is going to take this or somebody else on my team is going to take it, I get the title of being arrogant and thinking I'm too good for something. And I think
okay.
that that's definitely an element that factors in alongside, I think, just generally people wanting to work with me or being like, oh,
Mm,
I worked with the owner and not just an
mm.
employee.
There are going to be a subset of clients that you work with, ones that are desperate to work with Nikita, right? There is no one else that they want to work with. You've got the reputation, you've got the relationships, you've got all of this sort of stuff. That's the way it is. There's going to be a subset of those clients and vendors that are like, I'm just part of a cool journey. I want to be part of this cool journey, whether I speak to Nikita all of the time or I don't, right? So is there an opportunity to create some form of two-tiered system, right? Where if you want me and you want me start to finish, you have to pay me a shit ton of money, right? Um, and that is kind of the bespoke white glove service that you get from me, that I am involved in everything. And if you don't want that, I will still be there for panic calls or like emergency strategy sessions or anything like that, because that's part of who I am. That's part of what I love to do. And that's part of me making this a great experience for you. But I don't have to be involved in everything. That saves my headspace. It also means that you get a great experience because you get someone that's 100% dedicated to you, right? So have you thought about perhaps doing a two-tiered, not two-tiered, I think that's probably the wrong phrase, but for the context of this conversation, a two-tiered system?
I personally haven't. I had, like I said, we've worked with a lot of well-known figures, and a
Mm,
lot of them have that appearance fee,
mm,
right? And it just kind of always rubbed me the wrong way
mm,
from the time that I saw it in other people's business model. Because I was
mm.
like, then you're essentially saying that your general business model is not the best. And one of the things that we have built ourselves on is everything that we do is the gold standard. We are the best at whatever we do. And as soon as I say that there is an upgrade available, then that means that our standard isn't the best that it can be, right? And then when you're comparing our standard to other people's standard, how do you say that ours is better if you can't afford this version, right? So if I'm like, it's the luxury mentality, right? It's like, if I can't get the top tier of a luxury service in this space, I would rather be the most important person on this side. Like, I would rather be the biggest fish in the smallest pond than a fish in a big pond when it comes to luxury, because you want to be the most important thing, right?
For sure.
So how many things do I lose by saying that this is an upsell? Like, if I make myself an upsell, then doesn't area become obsolete to an extent? Because it's my last name. It's supposed to be area.
Yeah. I would question, and look, you know this brand better than me. I'm coming from an outside perspective and just asking questions that perhaps you haven't or have asked before, right? Is that not already happening to some degree?
I think that the key is that it's happening in a non-noticeable way, and I'm worried about when it becomes noticeable, right? And if we jump the gun and we already say that this is what it is, then I think that the fear that I'm trying to prepare for, I won't be able to adjust for anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what drives people crazy. They're like, I'm trying to reach Nikita, who is who I want to work with and is the reason I came to this company, and I cannot reach her. Does she think she's too good for us? Is the company not the same company it was a year ago? And it's that perception. And as soon as I say that you have to pay extra for me, then I'm admitting that without me, the experience is not the same.
But you're not admitting that, in my perception, right? You're just saying that for some people, they want access to you. And you should continue to say that there's absolutely no difference. I would highly recommend that you just go with our standard service because the delivery will be just as good, right? But if you really want to be part of the journey with me, then this is my fee, right?
Do you think it comes across as arrogant that a 24-year-old is asking for $20,000 to show up to an event where you feel like you're supporting her company and helping her grow?
Yeah, but I don't believe nobody is coming to you just because they want to help support you, right?
I think a lot of people think they are. I think a lot of people think that by working with us, they're doing us a favor. They will come and they'll say, Nikita, all my friends will then book with you. I love your story. I want to help build you up. And and I know that inside their brain, they're like, she's the best person for the job and she will do the best job at it. But because I'm younger and I have only 18 months in this space, even though I'm really good at what I do, and I do genuinely believe that if you work with us, it's probably better than working with anyone else because we're really good at what we do. And they don't understand that if I had done a bad job, nobody would have rebooked, right? But they take pride in feeling like they're doing that. And as soon as I'm like, oh, here's my assistant or here's my manager, they're like, wow, this ungrateful little girl, how can you be so ungrateful that you could claim that you can't make time for me?
Yeah. But then if that's true, what is the longevity of the business?
There wouldn't be any, because eventually Nikita can only do so much. And if you're not willing to take a handover to somebody else, then eventually the company will stop growing.
Well, so there's two sides to it, right? So that I think you can still get growth if you play into that realm, right? Now, I think it's still maybe capped, but maybe not, right? We don't want to put limiters on it. On that side of things, you can grow in that way because if you say, well, as you said at the beginning, I want my limiter to be the demand that I can supply rather than it being my time. So, well, actually, you can commingle those by saying, well, if you continue want to work with me and you want to continue to feel like you're doing me a favor, I will increase my fees exponentially to the point where I just limit the amount of people that I work with, right? So you can do it on that side. But there's also the reason I point that is because on the other side, you've also got, well, you're not going to be 24 forever, right? And when does that cap out? When you're 25? When you're 26? When you're 30? I don't know. But you don't know either. So if you're continuing to build your model around the idea that, well, I'm just an exciting person to work with, that probably has an end point as well, doesn't it?
For sure. I think that people come to work with us because of Nikita, but I think that the true reason that they don't realize is because we do a good job, right? Like, I wouldn't be in the publications and we wouldn't be people love press, but if you're not
Mm,
good at what you do, eventually no one's going to want to ruin their wedding and work with you, right? But
yes.
having said that, I think that it's really hard for them to separate the two
Mm,
without somebody being like, hey,
mm,
separate the two, right? So when you and I are talking very rationally, it's very easy to say the reason they're coming is because we're good at what we do, right?
mm,
And my managers are the best at what they do.
mm. So with that argument though that you came up with, that actually, yes, they come to help me, but on the secret side of things, they've come because they know that we're shit hot at what we do. Have you not argued very eloquently that actually there is a way that you can hand off to other people and maybe even think about, and I'm not saying do forever, this two-tiered system, right? Because you're saying that actually if they compared standard to standard, we would win every day because our standard is better than everybody else. So actually the quality is better. And so that's what they're paying for. And if they really want that exclusivity with me, then they can pay for that as well.
I like that idea. I think that it's interesting. I'm playing devil's advocate because I feel like I get a lot of scrutiny. So I'm giving you scrutiny so I can test out the theory.
Please
So
do. Yeah.
just to continue down that angle,
Yeah.
you're right, right? Our standard is the same. But what happens during the inquiry phase, right? Where I'm like, here are your options, right? And they're like, well, the Nikita option is out of our budget. Nikita is what we've heard good things about. How do we know for a fact that her team is going to be able to deliver this without her? We're just going to go elsewhere where there's a tested model, right? Because word of mouth isn't, oh, Iria did such a good job. It's, oh my gosh, I worked with Nikita. She did such a great job. You have to work. And then they actually give my personal cell out too. They're like, here's her number. Don't call the inquiry line. Call her number at midnight just to really bond with her, right? So I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
How do you mitigate losing the demand? Because if you lose the demand and you're not able to grow, then all of this is for no reason, right?
Yes. Yeah. I can completely imagine that people are calling you at 12 o'clock at night. So you don't need to say that's not made up. Like I completely understand that, right? But the proof comes in the pudding, right? Ultimately, people know that you do incredible work. And over time, people will see that you do incredible work, whether it's you personally or you're part of your team. And there perhaps is an education piece, whether that's on your social media or on podcasts or whatever it might be, that it's your company, but you are not doing everything, right? And so there maybe is a part of that. And there might be a hockey puck, right? There might be an element where people go, I don't want to work with anybody else. I'm going to go elsewhere. If you were to look at your competition, is there as well known a competition as you? Is there someone is a pure face of brand that if they phone them up, that it is purely just the person that started the business? They're 24 years old. They're doing amazing things as well. Is there a like for like out there?
There might not be a like for like, but I will say, coming back to the Shark Tank analogy I gave earlier, I think that there's a reason why there isn't a Kleenex of the hospitality world, right? There's a reason why there isn't Mindy Wise, Colin Cowie, right? So there are like iconic names, but there isn't a person that's known for doing volume of high-end events, right? Colin is still at every single one of the events he does. So is Mindy, right? And so I think the expectation when it comes to hospitality is a personalized version, right? So yes, there isn't like a like for like, but if I'm considered the first class as this 24-year-old person who sees events in 4D and all that kind of cool stuff, if you can't get that, I would rather get someone who sees it in 3D as opposed to going to her team who might, in their opinion, see it as 2D. And yes, okay, proof is in the pudding, but you have to try the pudding to be able to do it. And once I land a client to hand them over, well, then you're not doing expectation management properly because they're then feeling like they were just abandoned, right? And if you do it beforehand, they might not book. And so I guess we're not so much just solving for Nikita Khandheria. I'm just one example of why hospitality hasn't been able to scale, right? Outside of like, I mean, I'm not talking fast food because those don't have faces to them, but I'm talking like if you look at wedding planners, if you look at event planners, if you look at corporate event planners, there isn't a name that comes to your head as, oh, this is the standard.
Yes, I agree with you. But how many people have built a $15 million a year business at 24 in the event space?
How many of them have built $200 million, period? Right? So even if you take out those qualifiers, my goal isn't to be the most impressive 24-year-old.
No, that's not my point. My point is that on one hand, you say that I'm supremely impressive. I built an amazing business. And why have you built an amazing business? Because you figured difficult shit out. And then on the other hand, you're saying, well, this is difficult shit. I can't figure that out. Both are not true in both situations, right? And so just because nobody else has figured this out, why can you not be the first person that's figured it out?
Because I think the difference is building a $15 million business is a lot in my control, right? Marketing is in my control. My ability to get clients is in my control. My ability to over deliver on my contracts is in my control. But the perception around the way that people receive me not being entirely involved isn't in my control. So there's a level of difficult stuff that I can do because I have full ability to navigate the situation. The perception is a much harder thing to do because just because I sit on Instagram and I go, guys, the quality is going to be the same regardless of whether I do it or Andres does it, it doesn't change the way that people see it. And so I guess my question is, what is the way for me to be able to do that scaling like I would in any other company? Like Elon Musk, he's the face of Tesla, right? But there's a reason why people don't need him to be the one designing the extra features, right? They're okay with him having designers. They're okay with him having engineers. They're okay with him having partnership specialists. They don't need him to be doing it to still feel like they're supporting him, right? So how do you build a hospitality company the way you would a product company? What is that element in delivery? What is that element in separation? What is that it takes to be able to do that?
I think it's exactly the same that you just explained, right? You've answered your own question. I think breaking it down into the component parts, you probably cannot be on every first call, maybe not any first call. So setting the expectation that when you are one of 33 inbound leads, I cannot possibly be on all of those calls. Now, when it comes to the ideation phase, maybe I get more involved, right? But I might not be in all of that part of it. What are the bits? Because what I think you really want to try and understand are what are the composites that wow the client and what are the bits that are just table stakes that they don't care about so much. For some people, it will be turning up for the event. For some people, it will be strategy calls. Like, what is that? What is the repeatable part of that that you can be in without breaking yourself?
That's interesting because in my mind, it's just the ideation. It's just the ideation and worst case scenario planning, right? It's, oh shit, it's raining. How are we going to make this fine? And me calling a bunch of tenting companies to see who's going to come put tents in the next 30 minutes so that we can do outside.
Yeah, I think that ultimately it has to come down to ultimately, what do you want? Why are you here? You want me to be part of that ideation so that you know that when you are comparing your wedding to all of your other friends' weddings, that yours was the best, right? Everybody will come to you for the next decade plus and say, Julie, when you got married, your wedding was better than everybody else's. And you have that pride for the rest of your life, right? And that was because I chose to work with Nikita. She didn't turn up to my wedding because the way that you articulate it is the way that you get to have what is really important to you is that I have the headspace and the creativity and the ability to craft that in a way that nobody else can craft it. That's what you're paying for, right? So I think the education then maybe becomes not that there's a two-tiered system, but actually you are just doing the things that make you better than anybody else in the world. And you have just been cognizant, you're focusing your time there.
That's interesting. And I think there's definitely a playful element that I can throw in there too and say, like, if I'm at your wedding, something's wrong because I shouldn't be there, right? And I've tried joking it off where I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like, if I'm here, the team's not doing what they're supposed to because they're too busy, worrying about what I'm looking at. And, you would prefer that I'm not there because of X, Y, and Z reason. And I've tried like that joking element, but maybe you're right. And maybe I just need to seriously be like, hey, I want to make your day special, but I also want to make the next person's day special. And if I start going to weddings, then I'm not able to spend the time doing what I need to be able to be creative. And the same way that you would want that high level of creativity, the next couple is going to want the same. And if I'm at your wedding, then they're not going to get it.
Yes. I would, again, communicate in the way that the language that makes sense for them, right? I would probably articulate it in a way that me being not at your wedding is great because I am being the conductor behind the scenes, right? You don't see me, but I am doing things, making sure that your wedding runs smoothly or whatever it is that you don't know about. And actually, if I'm there, I don't have an ability to do that because I'm talking to someone or whatever. And so, again, communicating in a way that makes perfect sense that actually you are giving them the greatest experience that you possibly can by doing this. They're getting something from you not being there. That's the piece that I think would be super useful to play with. So I spent a lot of time in the Amazon world, so I steal a lot from Jeff Bezos. And one of the things that he talked about was one-way and two-way doors. If it's a two-way door, it means that you can walk in, you've made the decision. If you realize the decision didn't work, you can always leave, right? Which means that you don't need to put a huge amount of upfront thought into making that decision. Now, if it's a one-way door, if you walk in, you make the decision and you cannot change it, then you need to put a lot of thought into that. I would suggest that this is probably a two-way door for you, that you can change this. And if it really doesn't work, it doesn't take a huge amount of finessing for you to change it back. But I think the upside of you changing it is absolutely stratospheric, whereas the downside for it going wrong if you do change it is quite small.
I would agree. And I think the only thing, sorry, this is coming to my head now that you've been like, tell me why, tell me why, tell me why. Now my brain's like, well, another additional option to maybe complement that is maybe building up the other people in my team, right? So maybe it is getting Andres. I cannot imagine this at this exact moment, but maybe getting him to be on Instagram being like, this is why I'm a great logistics manager. This is why I'm great at what I do, right? And maybe it's him really stressing why he's the best at what he does. And then I'm able to very easily be like, hey, here's the social proof that you're going to be okay. You can see this, right? Or to have him go on podcasts and have him start to do press around operations, management, and the things that he really specializes in. And I maybe stray away from that a little bit more and I focus on business development and marketing so that when it comes time to be like, oh, tell me more about the execution, I can send one of my manager's posts and be like, well, this is how my manager does execution. Maybe it's a compliment where I'm like, hey, I can't be involved in this, but here's the person that's super good at it. Here's the social proof to prove it.
Yes, I think that's a perfect example. The way that I have heard people explain it is like the Avengers, right? You're basically collecting the best of the best together. And that perhaps is a model for you that I have collected the best of the best. And so when you're paying for me, you are paying for the world's greatest team. And we each individual do the greatest thing that we are uniquely qualified to do. And my zone of genius is this. Andrea's zone of genius is this. And here's all of the proof to prove it, right? I think that makes perfect sense as a model.
And I think that's a much better story to tell than to be like, well, your wedding doesn't matter enough. And I do think a large part of it is true.
Yes.
Like, if I was the best at logistics in my team, then I probably would do it. And that's the way to sell it. I think, not sell it, but that's the way to position it.
The way that I think you've explained it is show, not tell, right? Whenever you start telling someone that this is the way that it is, so there's an element of, oh, well, of course she's going to say that, right? Whereas if it's already demonstrated, then the trust is already baked in. If you can go and see that Andrea is amazing at what he's doing, show himself at all of these events, maybe even get, I'm not saying you want to do this on a wedding day, but like live testimonials of people saying this is an incredible event and he's here and, oh, well, look at what he's coordinating and all this sort of stuff. It suddenly becomes undeniable that you are the greatest company, whether you are involved in everything or not.
I like that a lot. That actually makes me feel really comfortable about this. That
Good.
sounds like something that I don't feel is going to hurt the brand. And I feel like makes sense. Yeah, I actually think that that's true, but it is the better way to phrase it
Yes.
and to set it up. Sorry, now I'm just thinking about how am I going to get this story out there, because I really like it. I really, really like it. I think that makes so much sense. And I think that, yeah, I mean, I think it's really good. Sorry, I've been trying to figure this out for months, and now I'm like, wow, this was like right there. Sorry. Oh my God. Sorry. Again, now I'm just like processing it, and I'm like, this is really good. Really, really good.
Okay. I'm delighted. I'm delighted that we managed to break through that, right? I think that's amazing. So let's go through like live then. What for you, what is the next phase then? If we going to take this conversation and you're going to run with it, what does that look like for you? What are the immediate next steps?
I think the immediate next steps is sitting down with my team and kind of going into, hey, this is one of the things that we've all noticed is our biggest constraint. This is how we are going to tell the story around it. And I need all of you to kind of come in on this. Like Andres is like a 45-year-old man that I don't think likes the idea of social media. So I think it's going to be like, Andres, you want to be the biggest company in the world and you want to be the best at what you do, you're going to have to get uncomfortable and do this brand building. And then I think also getting the rest of the team to kind of start to absorb a couple of other elements to give him the bandwidth to start to do that, right? So probably going to have to promote somebody on his team to take on a little bit more of his time so that we could set that up. I think just making space for him to be able to have the room to do that, because it took me so long to take the room. Like, you never want your marketing to take away from your quality of product, right? So I think the first step is going to be figuring out how does some level of delegation have to happen on his end so he can free up that time to still over deliver at what he does and still be the best, because you don't want to be telling everyone you're the best and then not really be the best. So I think figuring that out and figuring out how to get people to see that side of him. And I think testimonials are going to be really good because they won't be very time intensive on his part. And I think there's a lot of people that just adore him that would be happy to chat about it. And so I think that that's probably it. I think making him the face of that specific venue and being like, when you come to this venue, you get Andres and you should be happy you do because he's good at what he does. So I think that's the next step. I think figuring out how to start to build that image with him.
Yeah. And the way that I always like to think about things is like, what is the smallest imperceptible step that you can take towards that, right? Don't try and like eat everything at once. It's like, for him, it might not be anything net new at this point. The thing that you might do is you might literally hire a camera woman to follow him around all day, right? And just watch him in his natural environment doing what he does. Maybe at times it comes pertinent for him to talk to camera or to do more press or things like that. But the things that's going to give me confidence that he can do what he can do is him actually doing it and him demonstrating it, him running these events and him doing this stuff. And then maybe the camera woman or cameraman says at some point, hey, what are you doing? Or why are you doing this? And him answering it. But that doesn't take a huge amount of his time, because the last thing that you want to do is that you want to then say, okay, here's a whole heap more for you to do. And let's work out a slightly new system. And then that detracts from what he's doing. So what sounded like the easiest way of transitioning into that, I would imagine.
Exactly what you said. That's actually the best way. Just hire a cameraman to follow him and be like, this is why he's the best at what he does. Exhibit A.
Yeah.
I do feel a little bit silly that we spent an hour and a half of me just like disagreeing with everything that you said to basically end up exactly where you started and just having to sell me on a marketing angle on it. I do feel a little bit silly that I spent 6 months trying to come up with this.
Look, do not feel silly, right? I think that we are all too close to see the things that are right in front of us. And for you, this is your baby. Like, this is your pride and joy. You live and breathe this 18, 20 hours a day. And you are holding this around. I can't break this model because I don't want this to go away. Like, I'm living my dream life, right? And so we had to find a way that made you not just comfortable, but excited. I could see that when it clicked, you were suddenly like, I get it now. This makes perfect sense. And that actually this is going to make your business better, not worse. And actually that you get to do your zone of genius more rather than less.
I think so. And I think that the most interesting part of it is, like you said, I'm already living my dream. And the only reason that I'm thinking about the next thing and the next thing is because I just want to do more of it, right? And I think the curiosity to do the next big thing and the next big thing, I'm I'm not at a point where I'm being drained of that. And that's why I go to bed like twiddling my toes and I'm like, oh, I cannot wait for tomorrow just thinking about it. But I like the idea of before it becomes a problem and before I stopped being able to do that, to start building out systems so I can continue to grow and the people in our team can continue to have their own personal brands that then allow us to have them be the different faces of the different parts of our company. Right. And so maybe it's like, hey, follow my guest relations manager around to see why I chose her and why she is the best at what she does.
Mm,
And I really like that. And I really like the idea. I've never watched any Avenger movies either, but I love
no.
the idea of accumulating the best, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I do. I firefight, I take obstacles out of their way, and I bring in the rest of the team for us to continue to do a good job at what we do.
Mm. And what's the extra beautiful thing on top of that? If you have built a team, like, so let's wind it back a bit. One of the stupid things I used to say when I ran a business was I used to say to my team after 6 months, I want you applying for other jobs because I want you so confident that this is the best place for you to work at, right? And nobody ever left my team because they were very confident that we paid the best, that we motivated them the best, that the mission that they were going after was the best, right? That's ultimately the model in some ways that you want to recreate. That, not saying that you want to take my exact verbiage, maybe that's a bit crazy, but like that if you come and work for me, I will make you undeniably the best in your area. So you want the Andreas and all of these people to rise up, and yes, they want to drive your business forward, but feel confident that actually that you're making them incredible. So if they do want to leave, they can, but you know that the environment is so undeniable that they would never want to leave. But the beautiful thing that follows on from that is maybe you get the clients that want to work with Andrea, not with you because they've built this incredible thing as well. And you get employees that want to work there because as you're expanding, they want to be part of this amazing thing. They want to be close to him. They want to be close to you. They want to do all this amazing stuff as well. So I actually think it's a way of extrapolating the growth of your business rather than slowing it down in any way as well, which is very cool.
I love that. And it's so funny because I always say to people, I'm like, this is the job you're going to retire with. I hate hiring and I hate firing. I love the idea that we're going to grow fast enough that as soon as you're ready to take the next step, we will have it for you. And so, like, that's what Andres actually started off as a server with me. And
Wow.
we trained him up. This is his first management job. And then he's director of operations now. And my business development director actually was an intern for me when I built my clinics. And she's been with me for almost 10 years now. And she's just grown with it, right? We took her straight out of school and she's all the way there. So I'm completely on the same page where I really do believe that everyone that I bring on, they are the best at what they can do. And I see that growth potential in them. And then we train them on that. Like I spent 6 months with Andres teaching him how to be the best at what he does. And then he had that innate quality that made him better than me at what he was doing. And that's why if I were to sit here and make your floor plans, I almost guarantee you they won't be as good as his.
Yes. Well, look, Nikita, I think that's a beautiful way to end. So let's call it there. You've got some next steps. You're excited about the next phase. But if people want to book the next Rockstar event, how do they go about doing that?
Iria.co. Just go on our website. Don't call my personal cell. Just kidding. But just go on the website and there's an inquiry form there. You can see some stuff that we've done in the past and you can tell us a little bit about what you're trying to build.
And from that, you'll meet the best people in the place that they're meant to be. You'll do the thing that you're meant to be doing in your zone of genius, and everybody along the way will as well. Cool. So thank you, Nikita. It was a pleasure meeting you. I'm glad that we managed to find something that is exciting as the next phase. So have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much for having me.